One comment I want to point out is Jenny Beanboo actually made a I think it's a really great point here. She says, if I can communicate better with a Chinese person by speaking English in a Chinese accent, is it racist? Now I see this all the time. Where like let's say you're at a Chinese restaurant or something, you're like you order something and you can tell they're kind of struggling with it and they break it down into I mean you don't put on the Chinese accent, perhaps sometimes you do, but like you break it down into like a foreigner learning a new language, learning English, you break it down that way and it's not proper English, but then they understand it and you get your message across. Is that racist, or is that communicating with someone who doesn't get it?
I feel like
That's a
it's
tough one.
just like the situation. Like it can be in context come off as very racist, or it can be like honestly you're just trying to help because like
Yeah,
yeah, there's certain
agreed.
things that people that it's same with my parents. My parents are super fob, and like I have to sometimes switch from English to Polish because I'm like, yo, I literally said garbage can 3 times in a row, so now I'm gonna say it in Polish, and they're like, oh, garbage can. And I'm like, okay, what the hell?
Is
Okay,
that how they
what's
say
okay
it?
when you say
Yeah, that's to say.
When you say it in Polish, do you mean like you say it with like a Polish accent?
you say it in Polish language?
But either or actually help, and I do find that saying it in their accent will help because there's certain things that they'll um enunciate very differently than we would in the English language. Like for example, like they'll roll their R's in every single word that has an R. Sometimes me rolling my R's in something that has like garbage, they're like, oh, garbage. They'll get it now. They'll
It's
understand.
interesting.
But I find that if you're going like it's one of those things, just like any other like jokes and stuff like that, like you have to really like know your audience. Like you can't just go in and like just start doing that because some people might be like, yo, that's not cool. I find that if you're trying to like if they're sincerely trying to learn, be like help me like try to understand what you're trying to say, and you maybe pop that out, maybe it could be fine. I think, but if you're just doing it right off the bat, like kind of like you don't even give them a chance to analyze the situation, you automatically jump into it. They might be like, "Yo, that's
Yeah,
fucked."
like if
Oh,
you
that's
right
fair.
off the bat assume that because you're talking um in an accent like right away, that I think could come off as racist. Like like you just assume because let's say let's take the Chinese restaurant that you like start talking as if they don't understand English, and then they're like, yeah, like I got your order, and you're just like, then you look like a fucking dickhead because you know what I mean. Like again, it wouldn't be fair, I think, to assume that. But if there's obviously been prior communication about it, I think that's. I don't think that would be racist if it's again it's the intent of again if there's no racial intent, like it's not like you're mocking them, you know people will always
Intentionally,
interpret it
yeah.
that way. It's
Can,
realistically what is the individuals involved with the engagement. What's their intent? And
Mm-hmm.
again, some people may still interpret it as racist when really you might just be trying to do it um, to just make it a smoother interaction.
can I bring up something? It's revolving this topic, and
Yeah.
Karl Marx has brought it up.
Yep.
Some accents are racist for some reason. Some aren't. If you do a mock Russian accent, no one will ever call you racist. If you speak in a mock Indian accent, you're racist. Not quite sure why. And it's
See,
true.
that is true, and I think though that sorry, I know you're gonna say that, but I
Go on,
think
go
that
on.
might relate to, let's say, in our example, because obviously our perspective on this is going to be based on what the culture we're around, but I think it might just because the how prominent the Indian culture is in let's say the GTA versus the Russian, in this specific example, the Russian um population could be why. It's because it's so much more common that that you may interact with someone that has an Indian accent, that it's something that's mocked more. Whereas
Or
who knows, in scenarios like if you were in Russia mocking a Russian accent, like is that then viewed then as equally racial as the point that Carl made?
so,
That's kind of
so I think
my thought on that.
I think it's different. I think it's because Indian accents were more mocked in a humor standpoint, more in comedy shows and stuff like that. Where typically when you mock a Russian accent, it's to be tougher. So it has a different standing behind it. Where like if you mock a Russian accent, you're like, oh shit, this guy's a tough gangster. Like you don't want to fuck with this guy. Where when you mock an Indian accent, it's usually for humor purposes. I feel like it's also just like what we're used to,
Yeah.
what it kind of stands for, like in terms of it, out there in TV and everything.
See, maybe, and I think you're on something there, Lucas. But I think, I think you may have shown some dark sides of your subconscious that maybe you didn't want to show. Here's where I interpret it.
Let's see it.
I think the person who interprets the accent as being racist or not is basing it off of their subconscious and what they think of the accent. So if you think the Indian accent is racist, it's because you think, for example, you say,
Right.
"Oh, look at these fucking guys who can't speak English properly. They sound stupid." And it's your own subconscious and it's your own negative thoughts that you're projecting onto the person who might be doing it. Like, for example, I love doing the Filipino accent, and I don't think anything ill of them. It's just satisfying to say. It just feels good rolling off your tongue. I have no disrespect for them at all.
And it's
But
not
I
like you're
love doing
mocking them when you do it. You just
and I'm not mocking them. It's
So-
just genuine fun and stuff. So for someone to think, "Oh, Lee's doing it because he thinks this, this, and this," it's their own subconscious, their own negative thoughts that they're projecting onto me. So it's kind of again, where I say, Lucas, maybe you showed some parts that you maybe didn't want to, is by you saying, "Oh, it's because Indian accents are funny and Russians are tough." Maybe it's your own subconscious, and in your mind, you think Russians
Right.
are tough and Indian people are stupid and funny.
So-
kind of thing. You
So
know what I mean?
actually, yeah, I think it's actually where I've seen it in media. I think
Yeah.
that's where it's been.
Which is
Like,
fair.
for example,
Like
like the Russian accent I've heard from a comedian, and it was him trying to talk about how he used that as self-defense, where someone's trying to mug him, and he popped out a Russian accent. People didn't want to screw with him anymore. And then I hear like the Indian accent, Russell Peters. That's I think those are like my two examples.
it's
comedy acts,
social
right?
in a from a comedic standpoint. To your point, Lucas, the Indian accent I think is far more used in sketches and comedy scenes than, let's say, like in this example, a Russian accent. Like very rarely do you ever hear people like using Russian accents in like stand up and stuff. Carl also said the most offensive thing he's heard on the podcast or seen on the podcast so far is my shirt, and I don't think that's true. This is actually a sick shirt, bro. So.
The shirt's up there, but I don't think it's as offensive as Lucas's face. So you're right.
Agreed. Hashtag get your merch.